There are times when someone's life story is so compelling where those of us who have had sort of a boring life, an ordinary life, if you will, like I think my life is pretty uneventful. I come here, I talk to you guys. That's it. You hear about somebody who lives right here in Minnesota who had so much coming at her. You think, like, I just can't wait to meet you and learn more about you. Our guest is Dr. Liz Fiedler Mergen, who, and it's impossible to simplify someone's life to one statement, but when you say Liz's husband died running on a treadmill in 2020 and she found out she was pregnant the day after his funeral, if that doesn't stop you in your tracks, I don't know what will. Liz, it's good to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That is one of those statements that, as an outsider, you're like, I don't even know what to say. I can't even get my arms around it. And then you were living through it.
Yes. And that was 2020. So about a little over 5 years ago. I mean, there was a time when I could count the days and tell you, it was 1,000, da-da-da-da-da. I don't count the days anymore since it happened, which I think tells you, where I'm at in my journey of grief. But yeah, and
you never get over something like that. You just figure out how to move forward, or how do you even characterize that?
I think that for sure my life will always be a before and after, but it definitely, time does not heal. It definitely takes intention to heal, and as you work through something, but I would say that it gives you a bit of a rear view mirror. Time to kind of pause and realize that, I wish there was some, breaking point mantra, and there maybe sort of was in my grief journey as I was, really in the depths of it, but it definitely, it's something that's softened over time, but you just always carry it with you.
You wrote a book. It is available now, called Flowers Bloom Anyway. What made you say, all right, this is a story I need to tell, or a journey that someone might be helped by?
Yeah, I will say that I never really set out to write this book, but after you're told by hundreds and hundreds of people over and over again, okay, it's time. I started out by journaling, and if I'm being honest, the first 6 months, I decided I had about 20,000 words, and I decided I was going to publish it, and I was going to call it Stuff Not to Say When Someone's Husband Died, except for it wasn't stuff, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on the radio.
Not
so
on
it was
WCCO.
stuff. So it was stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff not to say.
Right.
And I paused, put the journaling away for a little bit, and then every few months I came back to it. And then probably a year and a half later, I went back and I read what I had written, and there were things like, I was so mad at my dad for not filling my water softener salt tank when I didn't even ask him to do it, but he didn't read my mind and do that for me, right? But there's so many examples of that. And there were some things that people said that were hurtful, or, but I really started focusing on intention. And so then I tried to pivot the book, and I thought, okay, it's an interesting story, but I don't know how I'm ever supposed to, do I want to do that? How do I do this?
It's kind of weird, right?
Like, yeah, it's weird. Like, what do I?
This is like,
it's my husband's.
Death.
It's his death,
Yeah.
and that's what it felt like the story was about, because people kept saying, well, it's this magnificent story. It's this huge thing, and now you built this flower farm on his family farm, and there's this whole thing. But I don't want to write about the most traumatic years of my life for trauma's sake, for what, entertainment purposes.
Right. Are you trying
That's
to make
weird. That's weird, right? And so then I realized, okay, how do I turn this into self-help? How do I pivot? And I came to realize that anger is a normal stage of grief, but I became an angry person. I would say around 6 months, when I was 7 months pregnant, my friends, and I so appreciate it, my sisters, they kind of set me aside, and they're like, Liz, we're giving you all the grace that we can, but you're just mad all the time, and how do you want to work through this? And so I tried to kind of tie the lessons that I learned and try to also sort of teach other people about grief.
All right,
And
let's go back to the beginning because I have done a terrible job of setting this up. So you are living in where?
so I live on
Let's go back to 2020.
Yeah. So I live on my late husband's family farm. It had been in his family since 1888. We had bought it. I kind of describe a farm as there's either a noun or a verb, a place you live or a business, right? We bought it as a place to live. So we were the 5th generation in a row to own that same property, to buy it from the previous. But I was working full-time as a nurse practitioner, which is where the doctorate comes in. And he had a career in lending. And we never thought we would farm or make a living off of that, because how do you do that with a small amount of acres? And all we knew was bigger crops. And so it was never our plan to turn this into any sort of business, but we had started a little farm stand at the end of our driveway, and it really is as wholesome as it sounds. I had flowers at the end of the driveway. I said, buy one, give one. If you buy a bouquet, we'll donate a second one to a nursing home. And that was what we did during COVID. And we sold everything that we grew. It was just this little garden that I had. And then when he passed away in December.
You had already one child?
Yep, we had it was 2 days after her 3rd birthday.
So she just turned 3.
Yep, she turned 3.
And then your husband, whose name?
Josh.
So Josh is just running on the treadmill.
Yep, running on the treadmill.
At your house?
Yep, on his lunch break. And I was at work at the clinic.
He was
39.
You were 31.
6 days a week. Yep, just healthy runner. And
in an instant.
Yep, they said that it was a arrhythmia. So skipped a beat, not a blockage, but just 1 in a million
Fluke.
chance. Yep, fluke. And I'll just throw this out there. There were no vaccines or anything. If people like to
start.
Yep, before you start coming
Right.
at me with that, there were no vaccines or anything. It just in a weird, comforting way, I choose to try to look at it as it was just his time. I'm not happy about that, but that's how I've chosen to look at it. Is I guess it's not a terrible way to go, but it still sucks in many, many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Liz Fiedler Mergen is with us. Her book is called Flowers Bloom Anyway, which of course is a literal reference to what was going on in this farm, but also the choice you had to make to, well, I don't know how much of it was a choice. So then you find out you're pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, how much detail I want to go into that, but, like, did you have a sense at the funeral? Aren't you feeling like, oh, my stomach is queasy because I'm at my husband's funeral? What made you think, like, I better take a pregnancy test?
Well, we were doing fertility treatments.
Oh, you were? Okay.
We were. And the last thing that I had texted him was saying, I shouldn't say this. It's too soon, but I think I'm pregnant. And his response was, oh my gosh, we'll find out when. And he was all excited and all these exclamation points. And then I did not hear from him again.
Oh, oof. And you're so young. And you've got now one child and a child on the way. Well, no wonder you were pissed off all the time.
Yeah, now you see why I was so angry.
Yes. What did your friends expect?
Not many people willingly sign up to be, typically most people choose to parent with 2 people. It's usually a team
Right.
sport, right? If you're choosing. And I was suddenly doing it on my own.
You then had to decide, well, you had a lot of decisions to make, right? When you look back on that, are there things that you chose or approaches that you took where you're like, you know what, I'm really proud of how I dealt with this?
So one thing that I like to share is that even though you can pretend like you had certain choices, there were a lot of things I didn't have a choice, right? Like you just, people, you were so strong. And what choice did I have?
Yeah.
But his family farm, his friends and acquaintances, they're like, whatever you need to do, if you need to do it, or if you need to sell and move back, toward your family. But they kept repeatedly saying his best friends did. They're like, you're going to have to stay here forever, right? You know that, right? And just like raise your daughters here. And if after a while it doesn't work out, but he would want you to continue living here if possible. And so I realized that there might be things that he'd be upset about, but at the same time, I needed to make this a place that I didn't feel trapped in. And that's how I continued to grow the flower farm and continued to grow the business. And now this last year, we've actually built an event venue on the farm. St. Joe is a thriving, amazing community, and they all really rallied behind it. And it's turned into something that I never expected, but life just kind of took that huge pivot.
You have now a 5 or 6 year old and an 8-year-old?
She's 4.5.
4.5.
Yep. And then an 8-year-old. Yep.
And you have remarried, right?
I have remarried to Brent Mergen. He's great, fantastic, the most patient man in the world.
Well, yeah, like you have, when we were talking before, you said both my husbands.
Yep.
Which is part of that life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually, about a month ago, I was interviewed for a blog on Shondaland, the creator of Bridgerton and Grey's Anatomy. And so they were looking for unique love stories. And so one of my friends sent in my love story with Brent. And it was really cool because a lot of times, I talk about Josh, and I do a lot of speaking now and grief and, different stories there. And the farm is his family farm, but getting that opportunity to tell Brent's side of the story. And the interviewer asked him, she said, "Do you ever get jealous?" And I appreciated her asking that because I think it's something that people do wonder. And, he kind of answered it like, well, when we go to the cemetery, I guess I don't wish I could trade places with him, if that's what you're asking. And I know this sounds really morbid, but it's so true. And for us, it's, if there was an inkling of that underlying, this wouldn't work, but it does. And he has such a respect, and yeah.
Oh, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. And it is, this journey, obviously it's uncommon. That is part of the interest, I think, but it's not rare. Does that make sense? Like, it's not unheard of. It happened. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you, in your journey of speaking and telling your story, have heard from other women, especially in similar. I'm sure there are guys in similar situation too.
It's a lot more common than you think to be widowed young or have something like this happen. And that is kind of why I don't want to say I felt the need. No one made me do this. No one made me write this book. But it's why I felt compelled to share it, because the whole time, and even still now, I feel like I'm doing things wrong, because there is no right or wrong way. And I am no more qualified to tell someone how to grieve or how to go through things. But I feel like if you can see that other side of the story and say, okay, here's the choice I had to make of this, why I made it, hopefully it helps you either A, make a decision yourself, or B, not judge someone that's making that decision.
Going through it. Yeah. Still the stuff you shouldn't say when someone's husband. I feel like that would be useful. Maybe that's a follow-up.
Yeah.
Though.
Well, it's still
in there.
It's in there,
Some
but I
in
tried to show the scar, not the wound.
I like that. I like it. We know a fair number of people in common, and you do have a quote from my friend.
I do.
John Sharkman.
Yes, I do.
Who has been on this show
I do.
before.
Yeah.
But he's quoted in the book.
He is. We were in Toronto, Canada. My husband plays Australian football for the Minnesota Freeze, as one does,
sure.
I guess.
Yeah.
And so we were in Canada, and I happened to text Sharkman, and he's like, actually, I am home, which he's never home. And so we went out for the afternoon and explored Toronto, and he said that about how he wants to lift trophies with his friends. And it just made me realize, toward the end of the book, there's no ending to it. It's still ongoing, but I talk about my husband's obituary, and I talk about how we are the ones who write our own obituary. We are the ones who choose what our life looks like, what it's going to be written about us. And that was something that stuck with me, is I just want to have fun and celebrate with my friends too.
The book is called Flowers Bloom Anyway, a memoir by Dr. Liz Fiedler Mergen. You can find it everywhere you find books. Liz, this was delightful. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really, really can't wait to read the book. Drive Time back in a minute here on CCO.
Drive Time with DeRusha on News Talk 830 WCCO.
All right, it's Jason here with a personal story about Tureen Dermatology. So I talk about Dr. Mohiba Tureen. She is my dermatologist. She takes care of my family and my in-laws and so many CCO listeners. So last night I go home and Alyssa, my wife, is like, you got to Uber to work tomorrow because I have an appointment with Dr. Tureen. And I'm like, well, what happened? She's like, I've got a little mark on my face, and it wasn't there before. And so Alyssa just called Tureen Dermatology, just like you could. She just picked up the phone and called over there, and she got an appointment the next day. I mean, this is, if you've ever tried to make an appointment with a dermatologist, you know how difficult it is to get in, and sometimes it can take months. Tureen Dermatology got Alyssa in today. They will get you in, guarantee within 3 weeks, maybe earlier. There are 10 locations all over the Twin Cities. You can call 651-633-6883. You can request an appointment online as well. If you have a mark or a mole that looks unusual, don't wait. Go to TureenDermatology.com.